If you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
I got you, sir. I got you, sir.
Let me get my shoes, sir.
Hold that in your head. It's bloody.
So we gotta move to the bus. Move to the bus.
Let me get my shoes.
Okay, my shoes down. Come on, get the shoe.
Watch out.
The headline is the obvious one. Someone took a shot at Donald Trump, hit him in his ear, but he is alive. He just put out a statement. He acted very bravely in the moment. He got up, he pumped his fist. As soon as Secret Service got up, you could hear him mouthing to them, "Wait, wait." He wanted the crowd to know he was okay. He said some words. I don't know exactly what he said, but he wanted to know that he was there and that he was strong, and then they took him away. Now, the important questions here, we don't have the answers to. Who, meaning who, how many from an organization, or are these randoms? That's one basket of intrigue that you're needing the answers to immediately if you are the protective services here, because is the threat continued against the former president, members of his family, the current president, one of the other candidates? We just had Bobby Kennedy Jr. on here. You do have to wonder if there is an organization or an individual, or, you know, if this wasn't just a lone shooter, is anybody else in danger? So that's why who did this and are they connected are very, very important questions. Now, the secondary question is going to be why this was able to happen. These are very difficult situations to secure. The Secret Service came out, put out a perfunctory statement that they're also investigating. They're working with the FBI. This is almost as important as the first question because of how toxic the speculation can be. There are already suggestions that the Secret Service somehow failed, other than by the obvious. Obviously, if someone is able to harm the former president or even get off a shot, you have to see that as a failure. But the degree, whether there was planning, God forbid any suggestion that this was anything but a mistake on their part in terms of being able to stop the threat, that's almost as dangerous as the people who want to do this and wanted to do this. Now, we have conflicting information. Every statement I've seen has referred to a single gunman. There is conflicting video. One piece of video that I've seen and that we have shown here shows someone being brought out of the stands behind the former president. Now, was that one of the attendees who was hurt or killed? The shooter was at an elevated position. They don't give us more information than that. There is another piece of video that shows someone in camouflage on top of a building lying on their back, presumably dead after this. Now, the reason that that piece of video to me seems to square more what you're seeing now with the reality, even though I don't know who that was being carried down the stands, but again, we know someone was murdered in this situation. We know somebody else was hurt other than the former president. So if this is the video of the gunman, it does square very well with an interview that was given by somebody there in the immediate moments afterwards who was very flustered and very frustrated because of what he says he was trying to alert the authorities to. Do we have the interview ready?
We have reason to believe that there are bombs somewhere in Butler County. Can you just walk us through that?
It's primarily standard procedure of any suspicious packages. In this case, there was identification of suspicious packages around where the shooter was, and so we deployed, in an abundance of caution, bomb assets to make sure that those were cleared for investigators to move safely in the area. We're still working on, it's still an active crime scene, so I'm not going to say that the scene is 100% clear at this time.
Why are there any Secret Service agents here right now for this press conference?
The Secret Service wasn't available for the press conference at this time.
What type of packages are you talking about? You're talking about packages, but the suspicious packages like what? Your shooter?
Really anything. I don't have specifics on what they were looking at, but you know, there's people in the crowd will leave bags as they're fleeing the scene like this. So any suspicious packages we have to treat as it may be an explosive device.
And how quickly, this was, I guess, the Secret Service, we're not here to talk about it, I guess, but when you guys jumped into action, all on and were able to take down that shooter, how quickly did everybody and who ended up taking him out?
So it was immediate, and we're still trying to figure that out. So we'll wait till we have more definitive information regarding that investigatively.
What about the person in the crowd? Do you have any information about how they were killed?
My understanding was it was from the shooter, but again, those will be details that are released later.
Do you search homes or apartments as a part of your method of identifying the individual?
So if that's where the leads take us, absolutely.
Was Donald Trump hit with a bullet, do you know for sure, or was it potentially something else that could?
I don't have that specific information as far as the injuries to the former president.
I understand you're not releasing the suspect's identification right now, but as you know it, is this person known to you guys? Is he somebody that you guys have been looking at, through the threats he's possibly made online, et cetera, et cetera?
Again, the information that we currently have, we're looking at that obviously very intently, and as we know that information, we'll release that as well. So we'll need to plan another time for a follow-up press conference. We're looking at all investigative leads and all everything from, and that's why we asked the public, because I'm sure there'll be cell phone video, there'll be all kinds of information that we'll use to fully flesh out exactly what happened here.
I know you're saying you can't say what type of gun it is, but do you know how many shots were fired?
I don't.
And
I don't have that information as far as that'll come out in the investigation as well.
Is there an identification tonight on the other victims?
As far as the civilians,
the civilians that were injured and killed.
Yeah.
So we do have identification on those. We're not prepared to release it at this time. We have notified a number of family members, but they have not had an opportunity to notify extended family and things. I would confirm for you that we did have one individual killed, and I know I heard somebody say about 2 victims. There were 3 in total besides the former president. So 2 critically wounded, 1 killed.
At this point, do you know if they were sitting near each other and where in relation to the former president were they?
I don't have their exact seating by individual. Again, that'll all be part of the investigation, but their shots were scattered somewhat, and so they weren't just into one particular location.
you're saying just one fatality as of right now?
Yes.
The shooter and 1 fatality.
The shooter plus 1 fatality.
Oh, thank you.
So there was 1 victim of the shooter who was killed, and then the shooter was killed.
And then 2 incredible.
Yes, ma'am.
Witnesses say they saw a semi-automatic rifle used by the shooter. Can you share any more details of it? That's what
I've heard those reports as well, and again, we do have a good idea of what the weapon was, but again, that's all part of the ongoing investigation. And I'm not trying to be cagey about that. You know, when the SAC talked about the need to be very methodical and to be cautious with that scene, we are doing just that. We don't want anybody else getting hurt, and candidly, there are some concerns that we'll be able to talk more about later on about just what those concerns are and continue to be.
Why don't you step off to the shooter's family yet?
That's all part of the investigation.
After the event, there were a lot of really angry people. Are you monitoring? Have there been any threats in response to this? Are you worried? Have there been any specific threats?
That's certainly a concern, and we're monitoring that whole situation. I mentioned that we're bringing a lot of assets to bear, and so like the FBI utilizing their analysts, we also have the Pennsylvania Criminal Intelligence Center. We will utilize the resources of our intelligence division and the Criminal Intelligence Center to be able to monitor for concerns about any threats, regardless of the side of the issue or the political spectrum. We want to make sure that we try and avoid any further violence.
But no, nothing specific so far?
No, sir.
Without identifying them by name, can you say anything about the other folks who were injured or killed? Were they adults, men, male, female, anything at all?
They were adults, and they're male.
All three?
Yes.
How difficult of a day is this for your department, though, or all your departments to go talk to these family members, including the civilians who were gunned down while they just went to a rally to try and, celebrate, I guess, the upcoming election? What are those conversations like, and how do you kind of get through that?
We have trained investigators, and we're partnered hand in hand with the FBI, again, because we've got some federal violations, some state violations, and so our investigators are going out methodically. We have a large team of investigators that are going out, dividing up these interviews and trying to conduct them as quickly as possible, and then there will be follow-ups. With the FBI asking for people to call in tips, I have no doubt that we will receive a lot of additional information that will also require follow-up. But again, we're working very well together, and it's only a short matter of time until we get through all of those interviews.
From your experience, how close a call was it for President Trump?
There were no police hit with bullets.
From your experience, how close a call was it for?
I'm not going to speculate or comment on that.
Have any of you talked to the president? Did any of you have any kind of reaction?
No.
No.
Which law enforcement agencies were tasked with securing this particular rally outside of the United States Secret Service?
Well, the Secret Service always has the lead on securing something like this, but then they work very closely. And I hate to use the word routine, but it is a fairly routine matter for all of our agencies to work jointly with the Secret Service. And it really depends on the venue, on what information is out there, what number of resources are devoted to it, and we work with them to provide whatever is requested by the Secret Service, but they're the lead in that security.
Was there anything about this venue that made it particularly difficult to secure?
I would defer to the Secret Service to answer that. They would have done the initial assessment.
Was the rooftop part of what was being secured? Was the rooftop, given its proximity to the event, part of that process?
It's my understanding that was outside of the perimeter.
Did this shooter have any previous criminal history?
We're not going to comment on anything about the shooter.
Did the agency deny Trump's team extra security? Any of the agencies that are up there?
Not that I'm aware of.
If Trump had been the nominee already, would he have had additional security for this event?
There again, Secret Service has the lead, and I'm not going to comment or speculate on what may or may not be provided at any given point, depending on their status as a candidate. What I will tell you is that, in my experience, the Secret Service does an excellent job of maintaining security on protectees. They're very cautious. They don't hesitate to ask for resources, and candidly, we don't hesitate to supply those resources.
Colonel, you're asking for the public's help. Can you elaborate and be more specific about what you would really like to see from the public? If it's videos, photos, personal accounts?
I think the videos and photos would be very helpful, and I think that once the shooter is identified, anyone that has specific information on that shooter, that would be very helpful as well to help us assess motive. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we are absolutely not taking for granted that this was a lone wolf attack, and so we would be looking for any additional information that might point us toward anybody else that may have had a hand in this.